Hey guys, Hector here, and in this video I want to talk about why I switched from Android to Apple. So I know I'm probably going to get a ton of hate already automatically, like, oh my god, Apple fanboys, Apple sucks, etc., Android best, number one, etc., etc., etc. So of course I kind of was on that bandwagon, I guess you can say, years ago, and my very first phone was Motorola Atrix, which had Android 2.0 I believe, but I'm not a super rich guy. I want to use my phone as much as possible, and that's not really the way to go when you have Android, or really when you have a lot of phones. And Apple has kind of become an exception these days. I know the stereotype is Apple people love to upgrade their phone every single year, every single generation, but the thing is, you don't actually have to most of the time with Apple, but it seems with Android, you do have to, because a lot of times Android is on so many different phone name brands and manufacturers and stuff, Samsung and LG and all that. And so I believe it's up to the manufacturer to release the Android updates. As I said, I had Motorola Atrix, started out with Android 2.0 I believe, and over the entire life cycle I just upgraded to Android 2.2. And then they stopped giving me upgrades and updates. And because of that, I wasn't able to download the latest apps because of compatibility's sake, and I stopped receiving security updates, which is incredibly bad for anybody. And I just saw this week and last week a bunch of news about how like 10 million Android devices might be infected by this new virus. Is it because Android people are just shitty people and download a bunch of stuff? No, it's because Android, all these manufacturers don't give the Android updates, and then you're just vulnerable to all this BS, all these viruses and stuff, unless you keep buying the new latest Android devices, which come with the newest Android operating system and security features and all that. Meanwhile, with Apple, they keep on giving iOS updates to all their devices, but of course, some older devices, like the hardware can't handle the new software, or the capacity, the hard drive capacity, can't really hold all the new operating system information. So of course, a lot of older devices like iPhones, and I think maybe the old iPad, maybe, don't quote me on that, but and the iPod Touch and stuff, can't handle the newest operating systems. But I did hear, just a side note, that I believe the Apple App Store will be switching to a 64-bit App Store. So if you do want to get an iPhone, you have to get an iPhone 5S or later with a 64-bit operating system, just to stay compatible with the latest apps and all that stuff. But I don't think the 64-bit operating system has rolled out yet. It's just going to be a future thing, just in case you do want to switch from Android to Apple. Just something to keep note of. So that's the main reason why I switched from Android to Apple, but of course there are other smaller reasons. Another reason is the memory. I believe I said a hard drive a little while ago. Of course I meant flash memory, but whatever. So most people will say Android is better with memory compared to Apple, because most Android phones you can just do a micro SD card, stick it in, and you have expandable memory. Apple cannot do that, which is kind of lame. But the thing about expandable memory, if I have this right, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can only put things like music, videos, photos, documents, that kind of stuff on expandable memory. You still have to have the apps on the internal memory with the operating system in order to work. So most Android phones' internal memory is only like 10 gigabytes, maybe 15, maybe 20. And maybe they have the newer phones with bigger memories, but the older phones are kind of screwed. The thing about Apple phones is the internal memory can be pretty damn large, 64 gigs, 128 gigs, and stuff like that. And so you don't have to worry about space with apps and music and videos and photos and all that stuff. I know at the same time the cost is pretty insane, but I guess the only thing I can say about that is buy used. But buy a used iPhone, because, the stereotype is that iPhone people, Apple people want to upgrade every year. So just buy a used one. People who want to upgrade, just buy a used one, and then you should get it for pretty cheap, because I got 64 gig for I guess price of an 8 gig brand new, maybe. something like that. So memory stuff, there are some upsides, there are some downsides, but you don't have to worry about the whole expandable memory and then worrying about app space and all that stuff. And speaking of apps, a lot of times there are more apps on the Apple Store compared to the Android Store or the Play Store, because there are so many different Android phones out there with different screens, different resolutions and all that, so that makers of the app have to try and account for all that to make their app work on all these different devices. Meanwhile, Apple only has a few different devices, so app makers and developers or whatever can make their app a lot more user-friendly and a lot more adaptable or whatever, compatible for the smaller list of devices. But of course, there are some apps that are only available on Android and some that are only available on Apple devices. And another reason why I switched to iPhone is because of other people and how bad they are with technology. And if this isn't a Android people are better with technology or an iPhone people are better with technology thing, just so many people I know aren't really up on technology. And so I got the iPhone, but I didn't get a mobile service plan or whatever. I've just been using it on Wi-Fi. And so you can use instant messengers to message people, but some people just don't think about that. Some people don't think about using Facebook Instant Messenger or Skype or anything like that. They just think about text and phone calls. Although you can do phone calls with Facebook Messenger and Skype and stuff, but again, a lot of people don't think about that. So you can still use the iPhone text messenger app thingy, whatever, to message other people with iPhone as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection. You do not have to have the mobile connection because it sends messages through your Apple ID email. And so you can still use the text message app to send messages to other iPhone users using the message app because it uses email. And I know you can just use an email app like Gmail and email people that way, but a lot of people don't have their emails on their phones and they don't think, hey, I can just send this person an email. It's the exact same thing as a text message. A lot of people are technologically inept or whatever, and so I have to switch up my ways of using technology to match the ways other people use technology because they're not as technologically sound as me, I guess you can say. But just a note out there to anybody using Android or iPhone, if you're on Facebook, you can just use the Messenger app to call people, to video message people, to text people, and you can just have a Wi-Fi connection. You don't even have to have mobile service. Or you can use Skype and do the same thing. Or you can use email. You can use so many different instant messengers and do the same thing without having to actually have a mobile service or whatever. You can just use Wi-Fi. So yeah, note out there to everybody who might not know too much about technology. No diss, just some information. And that's why I switched from Android to iPhone. So I hope this explanation kind of calmed the nerves of all the Android fanboys and fangirls, equal opportunity, out there. And Apple fanboys and fangirls, don't get all excited and celebrate and all that stuff, because I have a ton of problems with Apple and their fans. So yeah, just throwing that out there. So that's it. Thumbs up this video if you liked it, I guess. And you can subscribe to my channel for more gaming related stuff. I know this isn't really gaming, but sometimes I do tech. So gaming and tech related stuff. Do vlogs, gameplay commentary, strategy guides, and reviews sometimes. So yeah, you can subscribe if you want to see any of that. See you guys later, and thanks for watching.